The world watched as two economic giants stood at the edge of a cliff. The United States threatened to impose a staggering 100% tariff on nearly all Chinese goods. This move would have made everything from phones to furniture twice as expensive overnight for American consumers. In response, China prepared its own powerful weapon. It threatened to freeze all exports of refined rare earth minerals to the United States. This would have crippled American high-tech and defense industries. The global economy held its breath, bracing for a shock that could have triggered a worldwide recession. The standoff was intense, with both nations refusing to back down from their hardline positions. Then, after days of tense negotiations in the South Korean port city of Busan, a deal was announced, establishing Busan port at dusk. Delegates' intense talks, then a public announcement. It was not a peace treaty, but a temporary pause. The United States agreed to delay its punishing tariffs. China agreed not to halt its critical mineral exports. This agreement, now known as the Busan Deal, pulled both countries back from the brink of a full-blown economic war. It was a moment of relief for businesses and governments around the globe. The deal signaled that, for now, pragmatism had won over provocation. The outcome in Busan was stated plainly to the public. There were no grand declarations of a new era of friendship. Instead, leaders presented a practical, step-by-step de-escalation. The immediate threat of a 100% tariff was formally suspended. This removed a dark cloud hanging over the American retail and manufacturing sectors. At the same time, China's Commerce Ministry confirmed it would not implement its planned export freeze on rare earths. This provided a sigh of relief for tech companies and defense contractors who depend entirely on these materials for their most advanced products. The core conflict was not resolved, but the immediate crisis was put on hold. This pause gives both sides breathing room. The Busan deal is a set of carefully balanced swaps. Each side gave something to get something. The most important part for the United States was delaying the severe tariffs. These tariffs would have hit American consumers directly in their wallets. By pausing them, the United States administration avoided immediate political backlash and economic pain at home. The deal also included a promise to review and possibly roll back some smaller, long-standing tariffs. This was a key concession China demanded as a sign of good faith. In return, China made several significant commitments. The headline promise: a major increase in purchases of American agricultural products. Direct benefit to United States farmers, Iowa, Nebraska, who have been hit hard by the trade war. China pledged to buy specific, large quantities of soybeans corn pork over the next year. This was designed to deliver tangible results to a politically important group. What are rare earths and why are they so important? They are a group of 17 metallic elements, not actually that rare in the ground, but very difficult and expensive to mine and process into usable form. They have unique magnetic and electronic properties essential for modern tech. Without them, many everyday devices wouldn't work. Secret ingredients hidden inside complex circuits. Let's look at two concrete examples. Neodymium, the powerful, lightweight magnets in your smartphone that make it vibrate. The same magnet is critical for electric vehicle motors, like a Tesla, and the giant turbines that generate wind power. Another example is the element erbium. It's used to create amplifiers for the fiber optic cables that carry internet data across oceans and continents. Without erbium, the high-speed global internet would slow to a crawl. Communication, streaming, and business. These minerals are indispensable for the 21st century economy. The Busan deal addressed a huge risk related to these materials. While the United States has some rare earth deposits, it has very limited capacity to process them. Over 80% of the world's refined rare earths come from China. This means the United States has a deep structural dependence on a strategic rival for the building blocks of advanced industries. Consumer electronics, sophisticated military hardware. A Chinese export freeze would have been a devastating blow. It could stop production lines for everything from F-35 fighter jets to medical MRI machines. This is why China's promise to ease its export curbs was such a critical part of the Busan Agreement. It was not a long-term solution to America's dependency, but it bought valuable time. The truce allows the United States to continue sourcing these materials, while it explores ways to build up its own domestic processing capabilities. That process could take many years and billions of dollars. For now, the flow of these vital elements will continue, keeping the engines of the modern world running smoothly. The trade war entered a phase of managed competition. More negotiation, more technical bargaining, and more opaque administrative pressure. In any negotiation, both sides come to the table with leverage. They each have something the other side wants. They have the power to inflict pain. In the US-China trade dispute, the leverage was clear and powerful on both sides. The United States' main source of power was its position as the world's largest consumer market. China's economy is heavily reliant on exporting goods to America. The threat of tariffs, especially the 100% tariff, threatened jobs and profits across China. It was a potent tool to force concessions. The numbers tell a clear story. The US ran a goods trade deficit with China of over $400 billion. That means the US bought over $400 billion more in goods from China than vice versa. This imbalance is the core of American leverage. By threatening to close its market, the US could disrupt that revenue, vital to China's growth and social stability. The American consumer's wallet was the biggest bargaining chip at Busan. It was a strong incentive for China to compromise. China held a different leverage, near total dominance of the rare earth supply chain. China controls refining for the vast majority of these materials. That control is a strategic chokehold on global technology and on defense industries. Trade deals are not just about numbers and economics. They are deeply connected to human lives and domestic politics. For the US administration, the plight of American farmers was a major political driver. Farmers, particularly in the Midwest, are a crucial voting bloc. They had been loyal supporters, but the long-running trade war had hit them hard. China, once their biggest customer, had slashed its purchases of US soybeans. China had slashed purchases of other crops. This caused crop prices to fall and caused farm incomes to disappear. Many family farms faced bankruptcy. The Busan deal directly addressed this political problem. China's promise to make substantial purchases of US farm goods was a lifeline for this community. It was a tangible victory the US president could present to a key constituency. Images of ships being loaded with American soybeans bound for China became a powerful symbol. Farmers shifted from victims of the trade war to beneficiaries of the truce. The Busan deal brought short-term relief, but it is built on fragile ground. Several friction points could easily cause the truce to collapse and reopen the dispute. Verification. How will the US confirm China is cracking down on fentanyl precursor producers? How will China verify the US is rolling back tariffs? Trust is extremely low. If one side doubts the other, the deal could quickly fall apart. A dispute over data or enforcement could reignite the conflict. Reciprocity or fairness. China will buy more American farm goods, but market access complaints remain. US firms face barriers. Forced tech transfer. US firms face barriers, competing with subsidized state-owned enterprises. If unfair treatment continues, political pressure in Washington could restart the trade war. Soybeans won't stop it. Technological supremacy. The deal didn't touch US export controls on advanced semiconductors. The US says controls are vital for national security, to stop China using US tech for its military. China calls the controls an unfair break on its economic development. This is a fundamental conflict. Any new US tightening of tech controls or Chinese attempts to bypass them could look like bad faith and violate the Busan Truce. Non-tariff retaliation. Even if tariffs are respected, other tools remain. China could organize consumer boycotts of American brands. China could slow customs clearances for U.S. products. China could launch regulatory probes of American companies in China. The U.S. could add more Chinese tech firms to its entity list, restricting access to U.S. components. These actions could slowly erode trust and trigger a simmering escalation that brings the truce to an end. Both governments decided a temporary truce beat a mutually destructive economic war. The immediate market reaction to the Busan deal was a wave of relief. Stock markets jumped on the news. New York Shanghai investors celebrated as the threat of a sudden economic shock eased. Industries most exposed saw the biggest gains. American technology companies, automakers, retailers, Chinese manufacturing, export-oriented companies. The US dollar weakened slightly. The Chinese yuan strengthened. Markets showed a temporary sense of stability. Initial optimism mixed with caution. Long-term uncertainty remained. It stops immediate economic bleeding and opens a temporary window for negotiation. It doesn't address deep structural disputes. Technology, national security, fundamental rules of the global economy. The deal is a pause, not a peace. A tactical retreat to manage short-term pressures. Its true value depends on what happens next. The real test will come over the next 90 days. Watch 3 key short-term items. First, monitor timeline for China's issuance of new rare earth export licenses. Second, look for official USTR confirmations on which tariffs could be rolled back. Third, track shipping and purchase data for American agricultural exports. Progress on these 3 fronts will show if the truce can hold. Busan bought the world a pause, but not peace. Managed competition continues, and the clock is ticking.